February 24th, 2022, 4:37 in the morning, Highway E40, 25 kilometers west of Kyiv. A Russian tank column advances toward the capital. 43 vehicles, T-72B3 and T-80BVM main battle tanks, BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, supply trucks. They're moving fast, no reconnaissance, no flank security, pure Soviet-style Thunder Run doctrine. The Ukrainians are waiting in the tree line 280 meters away with American Javelin anti-tank missiles. In the next 18 minutes, 37 of those 43 vehicles will be burning wrecks. This is Mill Front, where we analyze the weapons that change the course of wars. The Javelin missile, FGM-148, American engineering, designed in the 1990s, purpose-built to kill Soviet tanks. Cost $78,000 per missile. Weight 22.3 kilograms with launcher. Effective range 65 to 4,000 meters. Fire and forget guidance. Tandem warhead specifically designed to defeat explosive reactive armor. Top attack flight profile that strikes where armor is thinnest. For 30 years, this missile existed as theoretical threat in Russian military planning. February 2022 turned theory into reality, and reality burned at 1,800 degrees Celsius. Ukraine received approximately 5,000 Javelin missiles between 2018 and early 2022. After the invasion began, the United States delivered another 7,000 missiles in the first 3 months. Total, roughly 12,000 Javelins in Ukrainian hands by May 2022. Each one represented a potential tank kill. The Russians knew about Javelins. Their intelligence briefings covered the threat. Their tank crews received training on the system's capabilities. But knowing about a weapon and experiencing it in combat are completely different realities. Which anti-tank weapon proved most deadly in the first 3 months? A. Javelin. B. NLAW. C. Stugna P. Comment your answer. Let's break down what makes Javelin so devastatingly effective against armored vehicles. The missile uses 2 warheads in tandem configuration. First warhead, smaller precursor charge. Its job, detonate explosive reactive armor blocks before the main warhead arrives. Second warhead, main-shaped charge. Its job, penetrate the armor underneath and destroy the vehicle. This design defeats the primary Russian defense against anti-tank missiles. ERA blocks work by detonating outward when struck, disrupting the penetrator jet. But if the ERA already exploded from the precursor charge, the main warhead hits bare armor. And modern tank armor, even Russian designs, cannot stop a Javelin main warhead striking from above. The top attack profile is critical. Tanks have thick frontal armor, 600 to 800 millimeters effective protection on modern designs. Side armor is thinner, maybe 200 to 300 millimeters. Top armor is thinnest of all, often 40 to 60 millimeters maximum. Tanks weren't designed to be attacked from directly above. Javelin exploits this fundamental weakness. The missile launches, climbs to 160 meters altitude, then dives nearly vertically onto the target. The warhead hits the turret roof or engine deck. These areas have minimal armor. The shaped charged jet penetrates easily. What happens next depends on what's inside the tank when penetration occurs. Russian tanks use carousel autoloader storing 22 to 40 rounds directly beneath the turret. If the penetrator jet reaches these rounds, they detonate. The explosion follows the path of least resistance straight up through the turret ring. The result is catastrophic kill. The turret launches into the air. The crew dies instantly. The tank is obliterated, not just disabled. Ukrainian anti-tank teams received NATO training on Javelin employment tactics starting in 2018. The training emphasized patience, positioning, and what instructors called weapons effectiveness discipline. Don't waste missiles on low-value targets. Don't engage unless you have clear shot. Don't reveal position unnecessarily. Make every shot count. because every missile costs $78,000. This training paid massive dividends when the invasion began. Stay with me. What happens in the next 12 minutes on Highway E40 demonstrates why proper training with advanced weapons defeats numerical superiority. February 24th, 4:37 a.m. The Russian column advances at approximately 40 kilometers per hour, standard road march speed. They expect minimal resistance this close to Kyiv. Their intelligence suggested Ukrainian forces would collapse rapidly. They're wrong. Ukrainian anti-tank team leader identifies the column through night vision. 40-plus vehicles. High-value target. He has 4 Javelin teams under his command. 16 missiles total. His tactical problem? How to maximize damage and prevent escape. He positions teams in staggered positions along 800 meters of tree line. Each team has clear fields of fire covering different sections of highway. His orders are specific. Wait until the entire column enters the kill zone. Target command vehicles and lead elements first to create roadblocks. Then systematically destroy vehicles from front to back. 4:39 a.m. The column enters the kill zone. Lead vehicle is BTR-82A command variant with prominent communications antennas. High-value target. First Javelin team achieves lock. The thermal sight tracks the vehicle's heat signature. Lock tone sounds. Missile away. The Javelin launches with minimal backblast compared to older systems. The missile's soft launch motor ejects it from the tube. Only after clearing the launcher does the main motor ignite. This reduces the visible signature that might give away the firing position. The missile climbs, levels off at 160 meters, then pitches over into terminal dive. Flight time at this range, approximately 14 seconds. The BTR commander has no warning, no time to react. The missile's infrared seeker locks onto the vehicle's heat signature and guides itself to impact. Fire and forget means the Javelin team can immediately reposition after firing. They don't need to guide the missile. They don't need to maintain line of sight. They shoot and move. 4:39 a.m. and 14 seconds. First impact. The Javelin strikes the BTR's turret top. Precursor charge detonates. Main warhead penetrates. The BTR's ammunition cooks off. The vehicle explodes from internal overpressure. All occupants killed instantly. The burning wreck blocks the highway. The Russian column halts immediately. Standard procedure when lead vehicle is hit. Commanders try to assess the threat. Are they under artillery fire? Anti-tank missiles? Mines? They don't know yet. This confusion provides critical seconds for Ukrainian teams. 4:40 a.m. Second and third Javelins engage tail-end vehicles. One targets a fuel truck. The other targets a tank at the rear. Both missiles hit within 3 seconds of each other. The fuel truck detonates in a massive fireball. The tank turret separates in classic catastrophic kill. The column is now trapped. Vehicles burning at both ends. No escape forward or backward. 4:41 to 4:43 a.m. Systematic destruction. Ukrainian teams engage targets methodically. Prioritize tanks first. Then infantry fighting vehicles. Then support vehicles. Each Javelin team fires. Repositions 50 to 100 meters. Prepares second missile. Russian crews attempt to return fire. Tank main guns blast the tree line with high explosive rounds. BMP cannons spray 30mm shells, but they're firing blind. They don't know exact positions of Ukrainian teams. The Javelin's minimal launch signature makes pinpointing locations extremely difficult, especially in darkness. Some Russian tank crews make the decision to abandon vehicles and seek cover. They're not cowards. They're making rational calculations. Sitting inside a tank under Javelin attack is suicide. At least outside the vehicle, they have chance of survival. Crew training emphasizes vehicle preservation, but preservation becomes impossible when you can't see the enemy and can't effectively return fire. 4:45 a.m. Multiple tanks attempt to reverse out of the kill zone, but the burning fuel truck blocks retreat. Some try to maneuver off-road around obstacles. This proves fatal. Moving slowly through rough terrain off the highway makes them even easier targets for Javelin teams. How many vehicles did Ukrainian teams destroy in this single engagement? A. 23 vehicles, B. 37 vehicles, C. 43 vehicles? Answer at the end. 4:48 a.m. Ukrainian teams exhaust their initial missile loads. 16 javelins fired, 15 confirmed hits, 1 missile malfunctioned and didn't acquire target properly. 93.75% hit rate. This matches the training statistics from American proving grounds. Javelin is reliable. The teams withdraw to secondary positions and prepare to reload if Russian reinforcements appear. But reinforcements don't come immediately. The forward Russian units have their own problems. Ukrainian ambushes are happening simultaneously across multiple axes of advance toward Kyiv. By dawn, 37 vehicles are confirmed destroyed or abandoned on Highway E40. Another 4 are damaged but potentially recoverable. Only 2 vehicles from the original column of 43 escaped back toward Russian lines. The mathematics are brutal. 86% vehicle losses. Estimated 180 to 220 crew casualties killed or wounded. Ukrainian ammunition expenditure, 16 Javelin missiles at $78,000 each. Total cost, $148,000. Russian losses, 37 vehicles ranging from $500,000 for trucks to $2 million for tanks. Estimated total equipment value, $35 to $45 million. Plus trained crews, which are irreplaceable. This is Mill Front. Real weapons, real tactics, real asymmetric warfare. The Highway E40 engagement wasn't unique. It represented a pattern that repeated across the entire northern front during the Battle of Kyiv, from February to March 2022. Ukrainian anti-tank teams employed identical tactics in dozens of engagements. Ambush from concealment, target lead and trail vehicles. Systematically destroy trapped column. Withdraw before enemy can mass counterfires. British NLAW missiles complemented Javelin perfectly. NLAW has shorter range, 20 to 800 meters maximum, but costs only $30,000 per missile. Ukrainian teams used NLAW for close-range urban engagements and Javelin for longer-range highway ambushes. The combination proved devastating. Soviet military doctrine emphasized rapid armored advance to exploit breakthrough and shock effect. Ukrainian doctrine, Doctrine, adapted from NATO training, emphasized patience, preparation, and precision engagement from defensive positions. The clash of these doctrines favored the defenders dramatically. Better approach against armored columns, mass infantry assault, or precision anti-tank ambush. Comment M for mass or P for precision. Let's analyze the tactical factors that made Javelin so effective during the Battle of Kyiv. First, terrain and environment. Northern Ukraine in February means forests, small villages, and limited highway networks. Armored columns had few route options. Ukrainian forces could predict likely avenues of approach and prepare ambush positions in advance. The terrain channeled Russian forces into kill zones. Second, intelligence and reconnaissance. Ukrainian civilians reported Russian movements via mobile phones. Military reconnaissance drones provided overhead surveillance. Forward observers marked exact positions. Ukrainian anti-tank teams often knew Russian locations before Russians knew they were being observed. Third, command confusion on Russian side. Many units didn't expect serious resistance. Their intelligence briefings suggested Kyiv would fall within 72 hours. When they encountered determined resistance backed by modern weapons, unit cohesion collapsed. Some units continued attacking, others halted, others retreated. Lack of coordinated response allowed Ukrainian teams to operate relatively freely. Fourth, logistics vulnerability. Russian convoys mixed combat vehicles with supply trucks, fuel trucks, ammunition trucks, command vehicles, all presenting targets in the same column. Destroying a single fuel truck could strand entire units without mobility. Destroying command vehicles disrupted coordination. Ukrainian teams exploited these vulnerabilities ruthlessly. Conservative estimates suggest Ukrainian forces destroyed 280 to 320 Russian tanks during the first 3 months of fighting, February through April 2022. Not all from javelins. Artillery, mines, and other anti-tank systems contributed. But analysis of combat footage and OSINT verification suggests Javelin accounted for approximately 35 to 40% of confirmed tank kills during this period. That's roughly 100 to 130 tanks destroyed by Javelin in 3 months. At $78,000 per missile and assuming 80% hit rate, this represents maybe 120 to 160 Javelin missiles expended. Total cost, approximately $9 to $12 million. Value of destroyed tanks, $200 to $260 million. Return on investment, 20 to 1 minimum. But the strategic impact exceeded raw numbers. The psychological effect on Russian tank crews proved immeasurable. Survivors reported constant fear of Javelin attack. Some units refused to advance without extensive reconnaissance and air cover. Others demanded reassignment out of armored units. The weapon's reputation amplified its actual presence. If you believe precision weapons change wars more than mass, type Millfront in the comments. The Russian military attempted several countermeasures as Javelin casualties mounted through March 2022. They deployed more electronic warfare systems, attempting to jam the missile's infrared seeker. This proved ineffective because Javelin uses passive infrared homing, not active radar. You cannot jam a passive sensor that simply detects heat. They issued orders for improved tactical spacing between vehicles and columns. Instead of 50 meters between vehicles, increased to 200 meters. This reduced the number of vehicles that could be engaged in single ambush. But it also slowed advance rates and made columns more vulnerable to artillery. They attempted to install additional ERA blocks on tank turret tops. Limited success because most tanks didn't have mounting points for overhead ERA. Retrofitting required returning vehicles to depot-level maintenance facilities. Most tanks in Ukraine didn't have time or access for such modifications. They emphasized combined arms tactics with infantry screening armor advances. This worked better in theory than practice. Infantry on foot couldn't keep pace with mechanized advance. Infantry and vehicles became Javelin targets themselves. The fundamental problem remained. Ukrainian teams could engage from concealment at ranges where Russian infantry couldn't suppress them effectively. By April 2022, Russian forces withdrew from northern Ukraine entirely. Multiple factors contributed: unsustainable casualties, extended supply lines, Ukrainian counterattacks. But every Russian commander cited anti-tank missile effectiveness as major factor in decision to withdraw. They couldn't protect their armor. Without armor, they couldn't hold territory or continue offensive operations. What NATO anti-tank doctrine principle proved most effective here? Comment your tactical assessment. The Javelin's effectiveness raised important questions about future tank design and doctrine. If a $78,000 missile can reliably destroy a $2 million tank, does this make tanks obsolete? Some analysts argued yes. Others disagreed, saying the problem wasn't tanks, but how tanks were employed. Russian tanks proved vulnerable because they operated without proper infantry support, without air cover, without adequate reconnaissance, and without suppression of enemy anti-tank positions. NATO doctrine emphasizes combined arms coordination, specifically to prevent the scenario that unfolded in Ukraine. Tanks don't operate independently. They operate as part of integrated system with infantry, artillery, air support, and electronic warfare. Would Javelin be as effective against American or German tank units employing proper combined arms doctrine? Probably not. American tanks would have infantry clearing potential ambush positions. They would have artillery suppressing suspected enemy locations. They would have attack helicopters and drones providing overhead reconnaissance and fire support. They would have electronic warfare systems detecting enemy communications and positions. But Russian units in Ukraine lacked most of these capabilities in February 2022, and Ukrainian anti-tank teams exploited every gap ruthlessly. The production and supply chain questions became critical by summer 2022. Javelin manufacturer Raytheon Lockheed Martin joint venture produces approximately 4,000 missiles per year at peacetime production rates. Ukraine was expending missiles faster than production. The United States had to draw down its own stockpiles to maintain supply to Ukraine. By August 2022, American Javelin stockpiles declined from approximately 35,000 missiles to under 20,000. This raised concerns about American military readiness if conflict erupted elsewhere. Production ramped up, but missile manufacturing requires specialized components and cannot scale instantly. The lesson: even successful weapons become strategically limited by production capacity. Tactical effectiveness matters little if you run out of ammunition. Ukraine's Javelin success created new problems about sustainable supply. Here's the answer to our earlier question. B is correct. 37 vehicles destroyed in the Highway E40 engagement, 16 Javelin missiles fired, 15 direct hits on vehicles. Some vehicles destroyed by secondary explosions or abandoned after nearby vehicles were hit. 86% vehicle loss rate for the Russian column, one of the most lopsided ambush results in modern armored warfare. 3 questions for your analysis. First, could Russian forces have prevented these ambushes with different tactics, or did Ukrainian defensive advantages make such casualties inevitable? Second, does the Javelin's success mean the era of tank warfare is ending, or does it mean tank employment doctrine must evolve? Third, what would you have done as Russian column commander after the lead vehicle was destroyed and you realized you were trapped in a Javelin ambush? Subscribe to Millfront. We analyze the weapons and tactics that determine who wins and who dies on modern battlefields. Highway E40 is repaired now. The burned vehicle hulks were cleared months ago. Traffic flows normally, but the scorch marks remain visible on the pavement where tanks burned. Silent testament that precision-guided weapons in trained hands defeat mass armor advances without proper combined arms support. The American engineers designed the missile, the Ukrainian soldiers proved its lethality, and Russian tank crews paid the price for tactical failures at operational level. Technology provides the tool. Training and tactics determine whether the tool achieves strategic effect. Stay tactical.